Good afternoon, friends. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us to commemorate this epoch-changing Kristallnacht commemoration. This morning, Her Majesty the Queen laid poppies at the cenotaph on this National Remembrance Day. And this afternoon, we're here to commemorate the victims of the Nazi terror, the night of broken glass. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, I need to hold it very close. Thank you for that. We, the Jews in Germany and Austria, were persecuted from the moment that Hitler came to power. I mean, 1933, as early as 1933, the minute the Nazis came to power, this ideology for super race, anybody who was Jewish, certainly if you were gay or mentally handicapped, you were immediately sidelined. Also the political ones were immediately, those who didn't like were arrested. As early as 1933, they started the concentration camp, the movement of Dachau. This was the very first concentration camp that was put into place. So from 1933 on, we realized this is no good to us. I come from Nuremberg, this notorious Nazi town, where the annual rallies were held, where they were marching in the streets, 15 abreast with bands playing. Also Nuremberg was this horrendous newspaper, Der Stürmer. The editor was Julius Streicher. This paper who made the Jews out into horrendous caricatures, a rabid race that must be exterminated. Julius Streicher was fortunately, he was tried in Nuremberg at the trials and executed. So the 1935 Nuremberg laws, that really changed the whole situation. You became a non-citizen, you became a nobody, you had no rights left, your parents lost their livelihood. Why did they lose their livelihood? You could only deal with other Jewish people. If you were a shopkeeper, obviously, you had no customers left. The shops were placarded with "Kauft nicht bei Juden," do not buy from Jews. If your parents were in the professions, the law, medicine, they could only treat other Jewish people. So immediately things became horrendously difficult. People lost their income, and we knew from that moment on, there is no future for us here. In the music, the arts, theater, you were not allowed to perform. As an ordinary person, you were not allowed to go to a cinema, to a theater, to a concert, to a public meeting. Nothing. It all absolutely, it came to a full stop. We realized that we have to go. You become an asylum seeker, a refugee. The next problem was, who would take you in? That was the next problem. These were stressful and dangerous times, but the brutality of Kristallnacht really started a new phase. It became imperative to leave, and it was an immediate threat to your survival. The night of 9th and 10th of November is difficult, very difficult to describe. It was a night of horror. I mean, I was at home at the time. The Nazis came. Well, first of all, let's put it this way. In every town and village in Germany and Austria, in every town and village, the gangs of Nazis came and absolutely played havoc. Synagogues, as you say, the synagogues were satellite. Over 1,400 synagogues were satellite in Germany and Austria. I mean, they just smashed the door, poured petrol on the beamer, and set it alight. It was absolutely horrendous. They came also to most private houses. Not to all, but to most private houses. They smashed the door in, they upset the furniture, they smashed the glass, they slit the downs, everything was full, this broken furniture was covered in feathers flying about everywhere. and it was absolutely a night of terror. I can remember it. I was very young, but nevertheless, I was 12 years old when this happened. But it was a night of terror. It happened in front of terrified families, women and children. The men were brutally beaten. The men were taken away to concentration camps, most of them. Camps such as Dachau, Buchenwald, and Sachsenhausen. By that time, by 1935, of course, he had increased the concentration camps. It was a shattering blow. And we knew, Jews, you must come, get out here. The 600,000 Jews that lived in Germany, about roughly the amount of Jews that lived in the United Kingdom. I mean, they only made up 1% of the population. Yet there was all this hatred. It was just too terrible. So it is now considered that the 9th and 10th of November were the beginning of this pogrom. This was really the beginning of the Holocaust. We put it back to that day because it was just too horrendous. We knew there was no hope for us. Now, how did this come about? I will tell you the story. In 1938, all Polish Jews were expelled from Germany. But when I say expelled, they came to their door, but take the case out now. I mean, just like that, out. They were sent to Poland, and Poland wouldn't let them in. So these poor families were left at the frontier, the no man's land between Germany and Poland, without any means of support to survive. It was a horrendous story. 1 month later, in November the 7th, a Jewish student by the name of Herschel Greenspan, a Polish student in Paris, he shot a German official in Paris. His name was Wuga. The Nazis used this assassination as a propaganda. I mean, look, let me put it this way. This 9th and 10th of November was very well organized. But they used it as an excuse. The German nation is rising up against the Jews. I mean, nonsense. It was well organized. Within hours of this assassination, within a day of this assassination, the gangs came and read all the houses. Joseph Goebbels and Heydrich, their Nazi ones, were alerted, and they came and devastated all the Jewish houses. But it was poor propaganda that it was the German nation. It was just a horrible memory. When I think of coming to the houses and smashing everything up, I saw people beaten up, people. It's just terrible. I think of it with horror. All right, enough of this horror. Let me ask you, can anything good come out of this? Was there anything that came out of that? Yes, there was. And the name is Kindertransport. This is the 75th anniversary of Kindertransport. This wonderful rescue operation that brought nearly 10,000 Jewish children from Germany, Austria, and Czechoslovakia to Great Britain. And let me tell you, Great Britain was one of the only countries that let us in. During that time, just before that, there was an international conference in Evian-le-Bain, Lake Geneva. How can Europe help the German Jews? The result of that conference was nobody, absolutely nobody lifted a finger, except Great Britain letting the children. So, on the 15th of November, excuse me 1 second, I must have On the 15th of November, 1938, an eminent committee of Jewish people, well-positioned people, the Sikhs, the Beerstead, Norman Bentridge, etc., went to see Neville Chamberlain, the Prime Minister. We have collected money. Could we at least save the children? Within a week, this was put to the House of Commons. And the 21st of November, the bill was passed in the House of Commons that we could do that. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Would you listen to the dates? 15th of November, the committee, 21st of November, House of Commons. I mean, the speed with which this took place is absolutely unbelievable. Can you imagine going today to the Home Secretary, Theresa May, and suggesting that we should pay in sanction? Can you just imagine? A committee of inquiry. It would take weeks, months, and it wouldn't be passed. So this rescue, this speed with which all this took place, really, really was fantastic. The Home Secretary of the time was a Quaker, Sir Samuel Hall. Now, the committee came to Sir Samuel Hall and said, look, we've collected the money, can you help us? His answer was, if you can do it, we, the government, will not put any obstacles in your way. Now, that very sentence saved our lives. Literally. The speed with which it took place, it was unbelievable. So what happened next? To organize this, first of all, to find homes for these children. The proposal was to bring in unaccompanied children, no parents allowed, unaccompanied children under the age of 16, and they had not to fall onto the public purse. So if you guaranteed for the child, you had to feed it, clothe it, look after it, educate it. You had to deposit £50, I mean 1938. These were big sums of money, but committees everywhere went around and asked people, would you be prepared to take a child? Many did, but unfortunately there were not enough Jewish families to attend to all these children. So other people helped. The Quakers helped. The Red Cross helped, the Church of Scotland helped, the Kristallnacht helped. So many people took children, which was unbelievable. But most of the children could not find private homes. They were taken to camps, Habonim camps, other camps, wherever they found accommodation. For example, near where we arrived, near in London, in Dover, there was a camp called Dover Court, a holiday camp which lay empty, and it was opened up, and lots of children were sent there. Lots of children were sent there. That helped. There was also Bunce School. It may not mean much to many of you, but let me tell you. In last week's Jewish Telegraph, there was a double-page spread about a lady by the name of Anna Essinger. Anna Essinger, a Jewish teacher in a boarding school, she saw this coming, and she took the whole boarding school to Dover already in 1934. So she saved lives. She saved fantastic lives. So people saw what was going on in Germany. Gordonsville has nothing to do with Jewish education, but Gordonsville was founded by a German educator by the name of Kurt Hahn, who already in 1934 took his boarding school out of Germany and put it up to the north of Scotland. So again, lives were saved. So now we have this timber transport. Committees everywhere organized retreats. Within weeks, the first train with children arrived in London on the 1st of December. Now, can you imagine? My mother, Ingrid's mother, obviously went to the local committee. Could you take my child? Well, there were too many children to be taken. If you were lucky, you got a lift. It was horrendous, traumatic, to be taken to a station, put on a train by the parents. Do you know what you've ever seen with you? Think of the parents. You're handing over a child, 7, 8 years of age, 10 years of age, handing a child into a train to go to a new country, to be looked after by whom? Forgot. It was absolutely a very, very difficult decision. But it took place and it saved us. Let me give you an idea of the train journey. My mother took me to the station. We waved goodbye on the platform. It was horrendous. 200-300 screaming children, some as young as 7 and 8. It was absolutely traumatic. Once we crossed into the Netherlands, once we crossed the German frontier, and the Nazi guards left the train, even as children, we already felt a relief, we already felt a bit of freedom. And in Holland, at every station, the ladies' committees were dishing out apples and chocolate and hot drinks. It was fantastic to feel well. I think particularly mention must be made to a lady by the name of Gertrude Bismüller-Meyer, a Dutch lady who really did a lot. Not only did she organize his trains, she herself personally went to Adolf Eichmann in Vienna. Now just imagine to have the courage to give this important Nazi, Adolf Eichmann, and she asked him, could you at least let me leave and take some children? He allowed her to take 600 children. He thought she would never make it. She managed it the next morning, and these children were also saved. So did Sir Nicholas Winton. He saved these children from Czechoslovakia. Rabbi Schoenfeld, he was a bit organized to put children in more orthodox homes because not everybody could take a child. So we came here, and I must say, I was made up. The train journey from Nuremberg through Holland must have taken, I don't know, 12 hours. And then we boarded a boat to cross the channel. I had never seen the sea before. We crossed the channel to Harwich. From Harwich, a train to Liverpool Street Station. Liverpool Street Station, we said it was a black hole. We were down below. There were 200 of us. We were waiting around to be collected. Those had their ranchers. Their ranchers didn't collect them. However, I would see over half the children had no guarantors. They were sitting there waiting. And some people came, it was a bit of a tacky market. Some people came and said, oh, I'll take this one, I'll take that one. Unfortunately, siblings were separated. I'll tell you a little story. One of our friends, one of our refugees, I can mention it, Sidney Mayer, I think his daughter is here. Sidney Mayer did not have a guarantor. Sidney Mayer was in Dovercourt. And people come to Dovercourt and collect children. They liked this one, they didn't like that one. Sidney Mayer, a bit of a laugh, he bumped into a lady, nearly knocked her over. This lady said, I think I'll have him. And he came to Glasgow and had a wonderful, absolutely, but just one of those things. He was picked out there and marked. I came to Glasgow, but there were 3 of us going to Glasgow. It must have been, by that time, it must have been on the way for 24 hours, I don't know. We were taken to a hostel, we were exhausted and tired. But we were looked after, there were no more Nazis. Next morning, we were taken to Euston Station, LMS, London and Midlands, Scottish Railway, the Flying Scotsman. I don't know if any of you remember the Flying Scotsman. We were taken onto the train from Glasgow Central. I had travelled quite a bit as a child, but never in a train with upholstery. Certainly not. It was like paradise. And then we were taken to the dining car. I mean, come on, 15 years old, with the 2 people with me, one was only 7 years old. The waiters in 1930 in the dining car wore white gloves and had silver pots of hot coffee and tea. And it was absolutely fantastic. I remember this absolutely well. Arriving in Glasgow at Central Station, I was collected by my mother had a cousin here at Lady Gummers who had arranged that I would have a guarantor. And my guarantor was a Mrs. Etta Harwich, a lady in her late 60s, her family was thrown out. Nevertheless, she took it, a 15-and-a-half-year-old boy, which is quite amazing. I mean, I had it easy. I was allowed to go to school. I found a wonderful home there, and it was a wonderful rescue, an absolutely wonderful rescue operation. Sadly, the siblings got separated. that happened. Some people were, I wouldn't say abused, but exploited domestically. Not everybody had that. But after the 5th of May, I was collected, I was driven to the strike, and I found a home there. I was taken to concerts. It was a wonderful woman. I mean, I will never forget her. Fantastic. She really, I found a new life here. Now, it is particularly appropriate that the 75th anniversary of Kristallnacht and Transport is commemorated here in Garnethill Synagogue. This congregation can be very proud of the part they played in the rescue. A life committee, I remember Dora Wolfson and Thelma Mann, ceaselessly asked families, can you take a child? Could we help? Can you take a child? And this is how I'm here. One of these people took me in. Wonderful. Furthermore, the boys' hostel at the corner here, I don't know if many of you may not know, the corner house here beside the synagogue was the boys' hostel, a marvelous home for over 50 boys in the 1940s. They were well cared for, found shelter, warmth, and many lifelong friendships were bonded here. Also, let me tell you, their education was looked after. Many were sent to university, which helped them really in later life. So it was wonderful that this synagogue did help and really helped with this rescue, this particular congregation. Below the synagogue, down to the left here, in Garnethill Street, there was a girls' hostel run by Traitors, where my dear wife Ingrid and also some other, I think Rosa was also in the hostel. They found many months of shelter there before they could establish themselves. May I also just say, when we came here as refugees, friendly enemy aliens due to religious persecution, but we landed in this country with a certificate to come here, not to work, paid or unpaid, whilst in the United Kingdom. So that the war changed all that, thank heavens, obviously, otherwise we would not have survived. So this community Garnethill, can be very proud of its caring assistance to all of us refugees in these tougher times. To celebrate the 75th anniversary of timber transport, a play takes place called Suitcase 1938, a promenade play which will be performed in about 10 different railway stations in the United Kingdom, particularly Liverpool Street and Harwich. It starts in Glasgow on Tuesday. There'll be performances at 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 7 o'clock at night. Now, may I tell you, there are no seats. It is a promenade play. You will be walking around the station and things will be explained to you. Hopefully many of you can attend. So this is the story I have to tell you. I want to thank you all for listening, and particularly this community for helping. Thank you.